What's up, acting community? It's such a pleasure you're joining the channel. Once again, this is Lorenzo from the Coach MC studio, and in today's video I have the tremendous pleasure to talk about one of my favorite subjects, about how to use your body realistically in front of the camera, how to act on camera by using your physicality effectively to impact the lens and the casting director, to book those roles and to have a magnificent, relaxed and very powerful experience whenever you get called to action. So let's see what's cooking. Acting on camera, you have two ways of expressing what's going on with your character in that scene, during the monologue, or in the movie, or on stage in theater, right? You have two ways of acting in front of the camera, in front of the audience, in front of the lens. There is your voice, expressing your thoughts, expressing the ways you want to communicate, your inner turmoils, your feelings, the missions you want to accomplish as a character in that scene during the monologue, right? And then you have the second form of communication. The second form of language, the second language, it's your body language, your physicality. Two ways of expressing your world. You make it vocal or you show it. You might say that this is the active form because you say it out loud so everybody perceives it. And then there is the passive form of communication, of language, which is your body language, your behavior, your posture, your physicality. Two ways of saying some powerful stuff. Two ways of expressing your potential. Two ways of telling a story. And that is the essential part of this technique lesson today. And I'm really excited to do this. I really thought about how to express this because you remember my last video about memorizing the lines, right? You might check it out. It's really, really helpful to kind of introduce the lines to your character and really absorb them and stratify them deeply in a quicker way though, right? So it's really fundamental to know how to express the words and understanding what the words are actually about, what you're actually saying. But then it's also very important to communicate with your body, to have a clear vision of how your body language tells a story. You can tell the story because we are storytellers, but then again, you have to also tell another story, a way deeper story. You might say that actions speak louder than words, and that is so true because the body language is way more important. It impresses us way more. Your physicality is a fundamental part. It's one of those two building blocks of communication, of existence, of language, of telling a story. Use it. If you don't use your body, you're wasting 70% of your potential because you can say many things, but then your body might indicate something completely different. And that's where the magic happens, where the audience starts to kind of, pick up on those hints and understand that the character might probably be about something completely different. So we're asking ourselves as an audience many questions about the character if the body speaks its own language. And that is what great acting performances are all about, like leaving a question mark, not so much an answer, but leaving the audience baffled, behind, and, just amazed by what they just saw. And that can be something big and huge. Of course, when we're talking about stage theater, we're talking about enhancing the movement, making it slightly bigger in life, oversketching the character a little bit because we have to get to the last seat, to the last row. Everything needs to be filled up with your presence. In front of the camera, we have to boil it down, condense it, and transform it to something way more natural and realistic. Because that is what great acting in front of the camera is all about, like true behavior, authentic, genuine, real, artistic, great behavior that seems true, that seems real, that seems truthful, enriched by life, and not by a superimposed kind of preconceived idea how you want to play out the scene. Casting directors, they've seen them all. They know exactly what kind of game plan you have. It's not about the game plan or the great mission or these beautiful substitutions that you build for yourself. And also, of course, like the psychological work that is super, super important. But then once you have that structure, you can leave it all behind and leave it up to your behavior, to your physicality, to your realistic and truthful artistic behavior in front of the camera once you're reading it, once you're playing it, once you are on stage, once you are in front of the camera. And your physicality is a big part about it. So yesterday, I'll be honest with you guys, we tried to record this video like for 3 hours straight, almost. And it didn't work out. Not because I didn't know what I wanted to say, but I was so stuck with the idea of giving you like techniques that you can use right away and that you can implement them right away. Even though this is a technique class, I'm teaching a technique that has no instruments. It's kind of reverse engineering a process. And that's why I've kind of stumbled upon this, and I was not able to finish the video properly because I was missing something. I was trying to give you techniques and instruments and little tools that you could use right away. But this technique video, this little lesson today is not about giving you one instrument that you can use, but to give you the idea of what this instrument should be all about. And leave it up to you to forge it and wield it and to work it and to make it your own. It's kind of accommodating, but no, honestly, this ain't actually a tool, a tangible tool that I can give you, even though it's a great and powerful technique. It's more about that you realize for yourself what realistic behavior actually means for you, because you are bringing in your body, not my body. I can teach you some instruments how to learn lines quicker, better, and deeper. And you can use that instruments forever. And that is just to learn something rational and logical. But here we're talking about your physicality, about your body, about your dexterity of moving in front of the camera. So that can be only yours. Maybe I have a very clever instrument that I use for myself, but my body behaves in a completely different way than your body. Things and ideas we can adapt with our rational mind, and then we kind of break them down for ourselves. But this is something about discovering what you have inside that means being realistic. It means being authentic, because as actors, we have to teach ourselves the craft of not being actors in front of the camera, actually ignoring the camera, ignoring the audience, the fourth wall and everybody else, just being intimately and privately in love with the lines and playing out the scene as realistically as you can. That's the magic. So here we have a different type of technique. Here, it's not about giving you the tool, but maybe helping you out on how to observe correctly. Because once you observe correctly, you can implement it, transform it, and implement it for yourself. What else is there than absorbing through the observation? Go out and absorb and observe. Observe and absorb. Absorb and observe. And do it over and over and over again. And that's how you learn what realistic behavior looks like. If you go out and you see people hopping on the bus, what they do, the chain of actions, what they are performing automatically as a linear progression of movements, these little actions from one step to the other until that person gets onto the bus. Maybe it's a handicapped person, maybe it's an old person, maybe it's a grimful person, an athlete, maybe it's a beautiful lady or a great looking businessman. Many people, many different ways on hopping onto the bus, on hopping into a public transport system. Observe all those people. Are they in a hurry? Are they thoughtful? Are they angry? Are they upset? Are they thinking about something? Are they happy? How do they feel while they are moving in the way that they are moving? Because one thing is for sure, we as artists, as actors especially, we know exactly how we sound. We speak so much, we talk so much, we do so many self-tapes. We have so many auditions, right? So we know exactly how we sound, how we pronounce things, what kind of rhythm we have, and what kind of temperatures we usually have when we speak, what kind of tone we hit, what kind of resonance we have inside of ourselves. I think pretty much everybody who is an artist, who's an actor, who is a performing artist knows how he sounds, how she sounds. But do we know how we look while we're saying the things that we are saying in the script? Do we know exactly how we look in that scene? How we perform actions, how, stupid and curious and weird we're actually looking when we are, boiling some eggs or answering the phone or searching for something in a hurry or trying to get out of the apartment, or when we're hugging our friend or a family member or kissing our partner. All these little actions, they have a destination. It's a physical direction that you have. And you're performing them automatically, but for every little action that you take during your whole life, you have a reason. There is a purpose behind your actions. There is a motive. You're not just drinking, you are thirsty. So your purpose, your motive is, fulfilling that thirst. You're like quenching that thirst because you're thirsty. You feel that I need some water right now. Thanks so much. You need some water. So, you go to the fridge and you grab some water, some juice, whatever. When you're hungry, you're doing the same thing. Talking about technique, what does that mean? So there is no instrument, there's just observing? Yeah, of course you can observe, a bunch of people out there, hundreds and millions of people. And this will all help you. And go to different places that are totally obscure sometimes. Don't go and don't just, visit the regular places. Keep keep the whole thing slightly dangerous and risky and funny and adventurous. Go to strange and weird places. I don't know, cemeteries or under a bridge or where homeless people hang around, or go to places that are also scaring you a little bit, that you're afraid of going to. Maybe there's a good reason for not going to those places and you should avoid them. By no means, I don't want you to put yourself at risk sometimes. But what I mean by that is just feel how your body changes when your mood changes, when your perception of your environment changes. Because besides tip number one, observing people in all those different situations in all those various places, which is always a great way of kind of understanding how the body actually tells something, right? There is a powerful story behind each and every one of us. That's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of the human condition that we're living right now. We are all telling a story with our body, not only with our words. So what kind of stories do you perceive by walking around in the city, nature, and all those weird places that you might go to? And then second tip, what kind of character are you playing in the scene? Is that a good character? Is that a mean character? Or let's say even an evil character who just wants to do harm? Is it like somebody who's really not aware of where he is right now? Is it a funny character, a happy character, an extrovert or an introvert? Is it a flamboyant character? Is it somebody who's thinking a lot, a rational character? There are many characters. And all these characters, they might have some sort of body condition that defines them from each other. You know, somebody who is very powerful and athletic and maybe bad, or like, yeah, an antagonist of a superhero in a movie has, you know, intimidating postures all the time and kind of tries to impress people around him or scare people, right? Is able and ready to fight all the time and to seek the confrontation, to do some harm, right? So that is a completely different body language than somebody who is an introvert or a researcher. I'm not saying that researchers can't be athletic, but just to give you an idea, that somebody who is more based on his rationality, on his head, on his thoughts, on thinking about and tinkering about solutions, that human condition has a totally different posture, a totally different body language, a totally different physicality. So observe closely, but then also make yourself acquainted with what type of character you're actually playing and what does this character want, and where is this character most of the times. Where is he during that audition? Like, what kind of room is that? Is that an open space where, you know, the fictional audition is taking place, that fictional little piece of film of that imagined life? Where does this whole thing happen? Because that changes the mood of our body, of our physicality, and how it impacts our posture as well. Are we in our place? Do we feel comfortable in our place? Or is the scene taking place in an environment that is scary or not friendly to you or totally unknown, where you have to discover things? If you know everything about your place, then you feel comfortable, then you should give everything like a meaning or a certain, you know, you are acquainted with a lot of things that belong to you in your apartment. You have stories, you share little thoughts and memories with everything in your room. So those little stories can impact your physicality as well. But then again, if you're in a room that seems totally strange to you and new to you, and then you might have a totally different relationship to that room, and that impacts your physicality as well in a totally different way, because now all of a sudden you're not feeling totally safe. And what's that, by the way, right? You're a bit more insecure and uncertain what's going on here. All these things, they will hit your physicality, your way of expressing, your way of telling the story. Two ways of telling the story: by saying it, by showing it. I know I'm kind of redundant here, but this is so fundamental to understand that great acting in front of the camera goes in two ways. It's not just one way of saying things. You can't break down everything just by saying it. You can't just impress people. Yeah, of course, there are some great speakers, public speakers. There are some great, if you think about Martin Luther King, I mean, he wasn't an actor. He was just great of preaching and saying things, right? You could really listen to him for hours and you were totally impressed and blown away by his delivery. But he also used his body to underline certain concepts, to magnify certain concepts, to accentuate something, or even contradict something, right? Our body can go also the other way. So it is really important to understand that everything happens for a reason in this physicality here. And in front of the camera, it should be a good reason. You should be clever about how you use your body. You should be aware of what your body says and tells to the audience. Because later on in a movie theater, your body will be enormous on screen. It will be gigantic, and every little movement you perform is kind of shaking out the room. So it better have a reason, it better has a purpose, a motive, something that feels realistic. Again, something that feels like real and authentic behavior. When we're expressing our story through our body, there better be a reason for it, right? Otherwise, just leave it out of the picture. If there's no reason for your behavior, then just putting up something that doesn't really hold up, that it's not realistic and it's too grand or too small or not perceivable or not interesting, then just leave it. Go in there with your body, with your physicality. Be loose, be relaxed, be conscious about how you feel. Drive all your muscles into the right direction, do a little workout, whatever helps you. But really get in tune with your body, understand your physicality, absorb their behavior as well. And then think about where this character actually comes from and what he wants to achieve and what type of character that is and where the character is at the moment. What type of location is our character in? Where does this whole scene take place? Because that influences our body, our physicality a lot. Another tip, like I said, our body can underline certain concepts. But if you are doubling down with your body, then it becomes too big. So look at me, I'm Sicilian. Southern European folks like me, we like to gesture a lot and use our body a lot. When we have an argument with somebody, when we talk with somebody, like in public life, during our private time, we love to gesticulate and just, move our hands around. When I shoot my YouTube videos, right? But it's just my natural behavior. And not everybody is like that. There are, some people who move their hands in a very more reduced way when they're talking to somebody else. Maybe they just want to be polite. Maybe they're more of, introverts, and maybe they don't have that, urge of moving their hands and their body while they're talking. And that's all fine. Everybody has its own way of expressing. So your body behavior is your body behavior. Your physicality is your physicality. Nothing to be ashamed of. Just make sure that your body tells the right story, that it's efficient and effective, that it's truthful, that it sticks to the context of which the scene is placed in. Make sure that your body, that your movement, that your dexterity, that your physicality is comprehensible, that it makes sense, that it's absolutely in tune with your character. It's nothing borrowed or artificial or placed upon, which doesn't really make sense or feels comfortable to watch. Because then again, it pushes us away from the performance and it's not pulling us in. Because we're starting to judge as an audience if that's realistic, if that makes sense, if that's really helpful, if it's not too ridiculous or what. We want to be involved with the character in his life and his human condition, in his environment, and what he's experiencing right now. So the body should just help to perform that, to show that. Because the director has an idea, the author has an idea, everybody wants this creature to come alive, but this creature moves in the way you move. And the more you are in touch and in tune with your body, with your physicality, the more believable you are as a performer in front of the camera. And on stage, of course, where you just have to magnify things a little bit more. But that's a different process. Of course, there are some characters out there, like classical characters, contemporary characters, that have some sort of body condition attached to them, which makes them kind of unique. If you think about Richard in the Shakespeare plays, or if you think about Rain Man, played by Dustin Hoffman, who was in this very weird body condition, or Bob De Niro in Awakening. In all these movies, we were perceiving and seeing characters that had a very peculiar body condition attached to their physicality, something they had to deal with, something that was part of their expression. And it was telling a very powerful story. But you see how hard that is to kind of maintain throughout the picture, to always keep it believable and realistic and flawless and natural and liquid. How hard that is from one take to the other, from one line to the other, from one scene to the other, to have that outstanding and believable high plateau of performance through your physicality, telling a story through your body movements and through what your physical movements are expressing. That is amazing. So study those great actors, artists, people who are performing with their bodies. Sometimes the script requires a character to move and behave in a certain way. Right? Sometimes the character has a peculiar body condition. When we're talking about the audition, Not so much about creating it later on a later stage with the director on set. But when we're talking about the audition, make sure to keep that body condition, to keep that special, peculiar movement, that way of expressing or holding or, behaving with that body. Make sure to keep it as condensed and as small as possible. Make sure to get in with something that's very easy to repeat and to perform and to show it constantly on a high level of quality, with a high level of quality throughout the audition. And don't take something too complicated into the audition that you can't really maintain throughout the whole 5 minutes reading process, because then it kind of falls off, and it kind of loses its performance, it loses its magic, and then again you will be judged for not being able of holding up this level of performance and quality throughout the whole reading process, which then might lead to the judgment that you won't be able to perform this whole thing on set later on for the whole duration of the film. So take something that's very easy to repeat, that is effective, that is powerful, that shows that you thought about this different type of physicality this character, this special character has, and keep that on a constant level. Don't try to make too much. Don't try to think about too many weird things that your body might have or has, because that just leads to distraction. It leads to you losing the audition, losing the frame in which you're placing your plate in. Yeah, it leaves some sort of idea that it was incomplete. So make something that is easy, repeatable, that belongs to you, that you rehearse thoroughly, that makes totally sense, that is efficient, and that looks okay, right? And acceptable. Everything else will be done on a later stage with the director on set, and then it will look amazing with the music and the sound and the costumes and the hair. Then it all makes sense. Then the whole picture becomes perfect. But for the sake of the audition, if there is something attached to your character, like a body condition, like some strange movement, something like a war trauma or anything else, right? Anything they might come up with, like give them a certain physicality, give them a certain disability, or give them something really specific that is easy, repeatable, and totally efficient and serves the character, instead of serving the show just for showing how great and special and twisted movements you can perform. That makes no sense here, right? We are actors, and it's about giving them the story, telling a powerful story. And like I said in the beginning, there are just two ways of doing it. And we so many times ignore the body, of taking our physicality in as an accenturizer, magnifier of the actual story of what you're actually saying. Again, if you think about people who've suffered traumas, or war victims, or drug addicts, all these people, they might do something with their body. Something happens with their body that is subconscious, that is just triggered by their environment, by things the other person is saying, or if it's just something that now belongs to them because they have included it in their mannerisms. When they're speaking, they're not thinking about that. They're just doing that. It just happens to them. And that's why it feels and it looks so natural and realistic. When they're saying the things that they're saying, maybe the body is going a totally different direction. And that is totally phenomenal to watch and great and entertaining. But again, here as well, you have to make sure that it's really an integral part, that it's not something that you thought about and it seemed and it looks preconceived when you are performing it, because then again it's just distracting. It doesn't really make sense. So everything has to be wielded together. They intersect. Where the language stops, the body starts, and when the body stops, the language starts, right? They are twins, two sides of the coin, two sides of the medals, two ways of telling the story. It's so much potential that otherwise we would waste. So much energy that we can, place into the basket, so much more facets that we can place into the basket to show what we got, what type of performers we are. Physicality in the end just means I feel comfortable with this. I am able to perform. I'm ready to show. I'm in tune with my mechanisms. I can use some of my private stuff and add something artificial and make it mine over time by wielding it together, by exercising it thoroughly, by adding new spice continuously, by observing continuously, and by making this as transparent, as translucent, as close to you as possible. So it becomes like your second skin, like a layer. And this layer, this now feels real. This is now yours. That's your skin. because even your voice comes out of your body. It's all your body. My muscles, my facial muscles, my face itself, our eyes, they are embedded in our body. So our body is holding everything. It is the fundamental structure that keeps everything encompassed and close and upright. And now it makes sense because it has a shape and symmetry and an expression. Does that make sense? Please leave it in the comment box below, because this is what great actors are all about. I can have a truthful and very direct response and a translation of the story through the body. Look at Dustin Hoffman. Look at Robin Williams. Look at more contemporary actors. Look at Christopher Walken. Look at all those actors. How do they behave? How do they move? I could also mention Meryl Streep. She said one time, we are always playing different versions of ourselves. So true. We are always playing a different version of ourselves. Now there's this version going on. Now I put something else out and attach it, and now this version is going on. And now there's this other version going on. And all of them are beautiful. Once you are persistent in this job and have patience, you don't have to put everything together in one basket right away and show all of your faces and all of your quirky and strange movements. Give every character something truthful and specific and beautiful to watch that is easy to repeat and powerful, as impactful as possible. So everyone has something to remember. So there's always like a hook line. There's always something like, yeah, he moved that way. He did this. Yeah, he was always flipping the coin. He was always smoking the cigarette in this funny way. There's always something attached to that character. So here, a few exercises at the end of this very long video that was intended to be very short. Hopefully, it makes sense while editing it. So, a few exercises. 3 different people are calling you on the phone. Make them up. One could be somebody distant who just wants something from you, maybe your employer, then maybe it's your partner, and then maybe there is like an appointment going on. You have 3 different phone calls. Maybe you were just lying in bed and were just relaxing, or just getting up in the morning and 3 different people call you. So how does your body react to all these different phone calls? How does your body behave and how does your body move when it's talking to your boss? And then again, when it's talking to your partner, or to this guy you're having the appointment with. What kind of facial expressions do you perform while you're having those phone calls? How does your face look like? That's a great way of studying yourself. Like when you get in different moods, how your physicality switches along with you. You can trust that. But then again, analyze it. Maybe there was something too much. Maybe there was something that could have been useful in the other part. Maybe one phone call you discovered something you should have done in the first phone call. Who knows? It's just a great way of studying. Just record yourself while you're answering 3 different phone calls. And you will see amazing things will happen. Second exercise, get into your room and pack in a hurry. Make your luggage, make your backpack, pack your bag. Again, record yourself, and then afterwards, watch yourself. How were you moving? Were you taking care of the things? Were you just throwing the stuff in? Let's imagine you have, a flight to catch, something that is very, very urgent. You just get into your room and you pack your bag, in a very quick manner. You're searching for your passport, searching for your keys, and you're putting everything together. How does your body behave? How do you move? Because sometimes you might be surprised to discover how fast you can actually move and still look great. When we're talking about our body, most of the times we're worried. When we're talking about our voice, we know exactly how we sound, but we don't know exactly how we look. That's why we're worried about our body. And sometimes by doing these very simple exercises and recording yourself, and then you look at it, you might discover, well, I'm actually looking quite good doing this. Even though I was totally in a hurry, it made sense. It was great for the camera. It was realistic. That's what this whole exercise is about. Being realistic, being truthful, like an honest behavior. Nothing else. You're just packing your bag. And then again, third exercise, you can't seem to find something very small, very important to you. You can't seem to find that thing, that object. And maybe you have to get out of the apartment. Maybe you have an appointment going on and there is this little thing, you like your keys, whatever. It's truly important to you. You can't seem to find it. What are these stages of flipping out, of searching intensively? How do you look when you do that? Fourth exercise, dress yourself up and look at yourself in the mirror and just do a little fashion show. Like you want to dress up for a very important date, something nice, something beautiful, something that is important to you, something exciting. You want to dress up, like, how do I look when I do that? Like, I'm matching my shoes, matching the tie, am I totally simplistic? How do I dress up? How does that look like when I dress up? Like, what kind of movements do I perform? There are many, many more exercises. You can come up with, with any exercise you actually want. Observe yourself and record yourself while you're cooking and answering the phone and taking notes. Or you're doing 3 different and separate things. Like you're cutting the onions, you're answering the phone, and then you have to grab a pen and take down a note. How does that look like? How does that feel like? What kind of hunch do you have? Is that realistic? Does that look good? Observe yourself and absorb the information. I guess now that I finished rambling on about physicality and the importance of how your body looks like and how you want to tell a story, at the end you can forget all this. For real. I mean it seriously. The most important thing is that you are telling a story in an amazing way. That you're just blowing people away. All this might be helpful. But in the end, the greatest achievement is to entertain people, to make them laugh, to make them cry, to make them fall in love with you, to make them get excited, to make them think about reality, about their existence, about their lives, about what's going on with your character, about the scene, to distract them or involve them, to kind of open up a world and pull those audience members into that world without necessity, without violence, without any excessive force. Just pull them in gently by charming them with your skills, with your art, with your instruments, by showing everything that you got. No holds barred. The most important part about all this is to be just truthful, just being honest in that moment, just experiencing the full magnitude of that earthquake that is going on inside of yourself when you're auditioning. Because that's the beauty of art, of creating. No holds barred. Don't hold anything back. Just show it. I'm not saying beat up the place. I'm saying enjoy the place. Enjoy your character. Enjoy your story. Your words, your lines, and your physicality. Your active storytelling process and your passive storytelling process. Wield them together. Put them together in a beautiful and unique performing environment that just belongs to you. And that environment can look strange, weird, scary, beautiful, happy, whatever. As long as it is yours, as long as it's truthful, as long as it's really enriched by your skill, by your magic, by your passion, by your heart, it will be great to watch. With a lot of physicality or just little movements with big tone, small, it doesn't really matter. It needs to be great. It needs to be yours. It needs to be realistic. I think that's it for today, guys. I'm so excited that you made it till the end. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me and to paying attention to this. Also jump to my Instagram account. It's the Coach MC. Check out my adventures there. I got some art stuff going on. Check out my homepage. My website is thecoachmc.studio. Book a 1-to-1 lesson with me if you got an amazing self-tape going on or a great audition going on that's coming up and you want to be prepared. Or if you just want to dive into more techniques and have, a Skype lesson or a Zoom lesson with me talking about special techniques and enhancing your craft and building it up. Whatever it is, just call me up. I'm your man. Leave a comment, subscribe, and of course leave a like. It's so important to us. It's just that little gesture that helps the algorithm understand that this content is valuable to you. And surely it was for me sharing this with you guys. Thanks again for your attention. And I guess that's it for today. So you're ready to perform.